not going to let this break us. Thank you.
President Biden, the Congressional Black Caucus said the Supreme Court has thrown into question its own legitimacy. Is this a rogue court?
This is not a normal court.
Should there be term limits for the justices, sir?
Okay, so he says it's not a normal court, not a rogue court, but it's not a normal court. So I guess that's something. And then he leaves. And he leaves in like the slowest week. Like it's supposed to be, I'm not gonna take any more questions, I'm being strong. And he just slowly slinks out of there. And I know that like it's metaphors aren't necessarily true, but it feels like his actual approach to this. It's putting up a little bit of, yeah, no, I get it, they're really bad. And then slinking out of there because he's not going to do anything. And I don't need to just read his body language. He's quite vocal about this. Take a look at this.
Do you worry that without court reform, this conservative majority is too young and too conservative, that they might do too much harm?
Well, I think they may do too much harm, but I think if we start the process of trying to expand the court, we're going to politicize it maybe forever in a way that is not healthy.
That you can't get back.
That you can't get back. And I think, look, I think maybe it's just the optimist in me. I think that some of the court are beginning to realize their legitimacy is being questioned in ways that hadn't been questioned in the past. And I think there's a concern on some, maybe even the Chief Justice, that maybe we better.
Well, in the independent legislature's decision, it looks like maybe Roberts had that in mind.
I don't know that.
I don't either, but you could. The optimist could hope so, right?
Optimist hopes so.
And he is an optimist. Bearing in mind, I believe that interview was taken after they eliminated affirmative action. And then before they absolutely decimated one of the biggest things he's done as president in authorizing that student debt cancellation. He believes, no, they get it. They're fearing that their legitimacy is being called into question and they will be cowed by that. They don't seem super cowed. They seem like they feel pretty free to do whatever they want, pursue explicitly ideological goals in a radical fashion, delivering wins for the Republican Party that cannot win enough elections to do this legislatively. But we shouldn't do anything because then it would be politicized, Brett. We can't make a change to the court because then it would be politicized. The fact that for the next 30 years, this majority is gonna be doing whatever they want, precedent be damned, is not politicized. The fact that they got one of those seats by stealing a Supreme Court justice from Barack Obama, that was not politicized. We would be politicizing it by reforming the court, even if the reforms are in line with the guidance of the Constitution. What do you think?
You said earlier you're reading Joe Biden's body language. Joe Biden's so old, his body language is written in hieroglyphics.
Dun.
Thank you. So I'm not against Joe Biden saying that he doesn't want to expand the court, and I'm not against Joe Biden saying publicly to Nicole Wallace on MSNBC that he doesn't want the court to get politicized. Say it. But the thing is, the reason that he's in a position that's so crappy is because the Democrats lost the political game. And what is that game? That game is just don't set off the alarms until it's too late. And that's what the game that the Republicans won, when they're like, okay, we look at the era where the Supreme Court passed a lot of more left-friendly, had more left-friendly decisions. That Roe versus Wade, which was what, like 7-2, right? And when you look at that era, the Brookings Institute and a lot of people who were trying to only secure benefits for corporations, they invested a lot of money in that and the other kind of, in getting the courts on their side. The way to get courts on their side is to win legislative seats and pack courts that way, in a way that doesn't set off the alarms, to gerrymander in ways that don't set off the alarms. Now, this Supreme Court even has gone and said this was gerrymandered too much, this kind of thing. goes, when they're trying to pass laws that make it so that the state legislatures can really just have at it and change the results of an election that in ways that are way too obvious, that's setting off the alarm. But the rest of this didn't. So what Biden needs to do and the Democrats need to do is devise a strategy on getting this all back that doesn't set off the alarms. It's more difficult in an era where the Republican side has no problem getting out there and saying, you're all pedophile Satanists. They're setting off the alarms to everything. But you need to do the work. You need to invest, you need to go in there, and you need to change the state legislature's makeup and win those states and use every tool at your disposal that's still technically legal until you get the balance of power back. Now, why don't I feel confident about that? I don't feel confident about that because of who was in that interview and how it's a microcosm of discourse in America right now. Because what you see is a softballing interview between the president of the United States on the Democratic side and Nicole frickin' Wallace, who was like the press secretary for George W. Bush. What you have is establishment, Venn diagram synergy. And all the interests of the regular folk who are just trying to make to get by financially in America, they're on the outside. And it gets even more frustrating when inside that circle as well, just because of the mandate of trying to get a majority, is like this religious right bigotry, hate mongering group that's just there so the Republicans can shore up their voter base and accomplish all those things that they were trying to do without setting off the alarms.
Yeah. I think the softball, there's a character in there for you, the softball guy. You're gonna have to work on the name a little bit, but I think that you could potentially have something. Look, outside of body language, Joe Biden is saying that he's going to announce new actions to protect student loan borrowers. We'll almost certainly do that, but what? What will those be exactly? Will they be incredibly tailored, incredibly limited? Scared of his own shadow? It's entirely possible. Bear in mind, they don't need to be. There are people who are now boosting alternative paths that he could take that should be well inoculated against Supreme Court involvement because there's a long historic precedent for them. But I also, as I read these tweets from AOC, I want you to bear in mind, there were people saying this years ago, saying that this is the path he should have taken, but AOC notes, it's very important to note that this SCOTUS ruling does not remove Biden's ability to pursue student loan forgiveness. The Biden admin can use the HEA, the Higher Ed Act, our position from the start to continue loan forgiveness before payments resume. They should do so ASAP. Just last year, the Department of Education forgave $6 billion for defrauded students. Trump completely wiped out debt for disabled veterans. Neither program was challenged nor overturned. We still have the power to cancel and we must use it, or we're looking at an economic crisis for millions of people. And again, in particular, with an election coming up next year, Biden has one of a couple different paths forward. He can either fight to the extent of his power to make sure that he does what he promised he was gonna do, which is this more limited student debt forgiveness, far more limited than people were pushing for from the left, or he can just sit on his hands between now and next year and send us a different type of strong signal to voters, young voters who supported him in 2020 and in the midterms that were crucial in both of those races. He can either do something or he can do nothing. And legally, constitutionally, there's a very strong case for him to do something, but we will see.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.